Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for May 5th, 2023. I'm Benji Fisher, moderating and sharing my screen. And also present are Ralph Kohler, Simo Helston, and Yoroi, or Roy Schulten, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I was reading the release notes when the alpha version of Drupal 10.1 came out last week, and I noticed something interesting. So here is a Drupal site. Let me share the URL with you in the Zoom chat. And I will log in with the usual super secret admin. And I will go to make the admin toolbar vertical, and I'll go to the site status report. And you'll see that I have the latest full release, Drupal 10.0.9. That came out last week, I think, or no, maybe that was this week. And if I go to available updates, I notice that the alpha version of 10.1 has been released. And of course, in about 6 weeks, it won't be the alpha, but the full release that comes out. So I say, okay, great. I want to upgrade to the latest version, but I know that's a big process. So for now, I'm going to log out and deal with it in the morning. So now in a window you can't see because I'm only sharing my browser. I'm going to check out the latest release. I'm doing a composer install. Okay. And so it's the next morning, and I've just upgraded the code for my website to Drupal 10.1. And now what do I have to do next? If anyone's trying to answer, you're all muted. Well, next I have to run database updates. So I go to the login screen, admin, and I log in, and oh, something went wrong. Well, I can try logging in again. Now, this won't help the login problem, but just from Drush, I'm going to clear caches. So that at least the page doesn't look horrible, but I still can't log in. And problem is that Drupal has just updated its password hashing algorithm, which for the usability concerns, I'm not going to go into great details about what that means, but just the effect is that I can't log in. So there are various things I can do at this point. One is that I can go to reset my password. And since this is a site running on my local machine, I was testing this earlier, but this is the one that just got generated. Since I'm testing it on my local machine, all emails go to Mailhog, but in real life, this would be going to my email account, and then I can click on the login link, and log in. I'm in. I can reset the password to what it's supposed to be. And I love that message. Make it different from your username would be more secure. So now I'm back in, and I can go to reports, status report. It will tell me that I have to run the database updates, of which there are 22, I believe. Yes, 22 pending updates. So do you agree that this is a potential problem, and in fact, a big problem that we should do something about? Ralph gives me a thumbs up. Drupal releases. And Simo gives me a thumbs up. Alpha 1. Ralph, go ahead.
But there's also the other problem in case the admin user is staying logged in when the site is updated and everything is fine. But if that site has several more users, yeah, the error message when you try to log in is also not very helpful, because I imagine, for example, if the module is uninstalled after that by the admin by whatever reason, and I mean, me as a user would be confused if I get the error message. What is it? I have one screen open somewhere.
It's the standard.
Yeah, the standard one. Yep, and it's not very helpful in that regard, and confusing if you were able to log in for weeks or months, and all of a sudden.
Right. So let me scroll down. New features, deprecation, experimental modules. Oh, where is it? Performance improvements. Here we go. It's this paragraph is all that it says in the release notes. Drupal now uses the default PHP password hash and password verify functions in order to store and verify passwords securely. Backwards compatibility is provided by the new PHP ASS module that will be installed on existing sites via an update. So that is all it says about this problem in the release notes. So I think as a first step, we should make this much more prominent, and say what to do if you run into a problem. Now, what is supposed to happen is once you do get to the updates page. Let me just also demonstrate another option. Let me log out. Another option is that you go to update.php in the browser. So I think the best solution is that you get a one-time login link, either from the password reset form or from Drush. But I want to see other ways you can solve it. You can go to the update.php and you get this message. I suspect we've all seen this before, but not at all recently. There's something you can do in settings.php. And again, I'm only sharing my browser screen, so you won't see this, but I'm going to make that change and set update free access to true. which has the sort of frightening effect that anyone in the world, an anonymous user, can visit update.php and get this screen. It's not a great option, but it is an option. And again, we see there are 22 pending updates. Oh, and here's another interesting thing. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love this. The recording will show a few minutes ago when I used the one-time login link, I changed my name. I changed my password to, oh, that it's going to be okay. I'm going to run the update functions. Oh, good. It reminds me to turn this back off. Interesting. Oh, this is something we did. No, it isn't. I'm sorry. This is another change to the block content module. It's not the rearrangement in the admin menu that we've been talking about. So it's sort of good that now that I've used this emergency measure to run the updates, it reminds me to undo that change in PHP. So I will go ahead and undo that. But once I've run the updates, one thing it does. Oh, I'm still logged out. One thing it does is it enables this new module. Password compatibility module. Which has this sort of technical description, provides the password tracking algorithm for user entities created with Drupal prior to version 10.1.x. Maybe we should have a quick look at the help. That is exactly the same sentence that I saw on the modules page. For more information, see the online documentation. So one step I've already taken is that I totally rewrote this page with some questions and answers. How does it get installed? What happens when it's uninstalled? Why not keep it installed forever? Why not update all passwords at once instead of when users log in? How can I tell which user accounts have been updated? So I added all of that, which I think will help. But I think we should first of all consider other scenarios that we can get into trouble, and other ways we can communicate what to do. And I listed in a comment on today's usability meeting some other scenarios. So one is that for whatever reason, I decide to go and uninstall that new module. A special case of that is that I've seen this before. People update the new version, but then they install the configuration from the previous version, and the configuration does not have the module enabled. So that's one way to get it uninstalled. Or if I just don't do the database updates. So for whatever reason, it doesn't get installed or it gets uninstalled. Or maybe one of the other update functions errors out, and the update function never gets run to install this this password module. So there are various ways that we can get into trouble. Do you have any ideas of other ways that things could go wrong and we could not have the module installed?
Well, not about the module getting installed, but what happens? Well, if database needs to be recovered for some reason, from some dump or something from backup, then probably well, anyways, we need to run the updates in such case, so it should be run update anyway, so it's not really related.
Okay, yeah, if something terrible goes wrong, and I end up restoring from a backup and the backup was made with 10.0, then yes, that's another way we'll get into this situation. So are there any ways we should communicate what happens? So do you agree that we should have something much more than this in the release notes? No one is responding. Can I at least get a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Well, I think we should maybe even have that under a separate heading. So because it's something that could cause some issues, and especially for, well, I think it's mostly for non-technical users, because a lot of like agency sites, people run just drush opdb or something like that automatically. But I think for this something that I guess would be mostly for kind of this kind of a site builder types who do updates. So I think it's something that might come as a surprise. But yeah, I'm not sure if, yeah, but somehow at least not being part of this kind of a one big block of text would be useful.
Right. So that's what I was thinking too, that it needs its own header.
Another detail, what might be added could be, I'm not sure if it's possible, but to add some sort of dedicated notice on the uninstall page in case someone wants to uninstall the newly added password module. Because at the moment, if you just skim over the release notes and some changes, it is not necessarily directly apparent that it could cause that kind of inability to log in for users that haven't been logged in with that module installed.
We put something more in the help page for this new module, and then when I go to extend and uninstall, password compatibility. So I don't think we have a choice to put anything here. But then when I click uninstall,
Maybe on that page, on that confirmation page, some additional note in the context of password compatibility.
okay, yeah, I agree. So it would be good to have a message there. you know, another thing you can do to fix the situation, if you do have access to Drush, is to use Drush to install the module. We should list that as one of the options for fixing the problem. Anything else? Oh, and I see that Aaron Michaelis joined us. Aaron,
Hello.
do you need help getting caught up with the discussion?
No, I saw your sort of note on the issue for this week's meeting, so I'm familiar with what you're talking about. I think that's a good idea, actually. Putting a warning people on the uninstall page is probably a sensible approach here. But you know, this could be quite a serious issue if somebody accidentally locks themselves out. So wherever we can intercept and warn them about the consequences of that, the better, I think.
Great. And for the
As a-
release, go ahead.
I was going to say, I suppose, is there maybe additionally, if possible, to you know, if that module isn't required, then you know it should be safe to uninstall, right? So I suppose I don't know if there's a way to know how much if any users are still dependent on the functionality of that module, but if I would suggest that as like an optional, maybe a follow-up, or you know, as a way to be like, well, you know, you can safely uninstall this module, right?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I added in this page. So this is the online documentation page, core modules and themes, core modules, password compatibility. One of the last Q&A is how can I tell which user accounts have been updated? And down at the bottom of the page is it's kind of small font, but maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. There's a sample database query you can run, which will tell you which accounts have not been updated. It might be nice if there was something in the admin UI, maybe on the site status report page that does this for you. Is that sort of what you had in mind?
Sorry, yeah, I think something just somewhere that indicates, you know, this is, you know, you've still got users using this, or this is how many users are using it would be good. So the status report seems like a sensible place to do that, and then we could probably, you know, link to it from any message. But that might, I mean, it might be the case where we can, if we're going to do that anyway, we could even just have some condition that checks before displaying the warning. Because if there's, you know, if there's no users that are, if all the users have been updated, I guess there's nothing to warn about then. You know, nothing would break if they uninstall it.
Okay. And yeah, I think in the Slack discussion, someone pointed out that there's a module a contrib module that does that. Maybe we can just borrow some of the code from that and put it into core. Go ahead, Ralph.
+1 for the database status reports page, but I wonder, would it, in the context of the notice on the uninstall page, would it make sense, be possible also to add that, basically that database query there, meaning be aware that currently you still have 7 out of 30 users that haven't been logged in since that update, and they would be unable to log in now, something like that, maybe? Or is it too complicated?
So if we can change the message on this page, and if we already have something that shows counts on the status page, then we should also be able to put the counts in this message.
Hmm.
Now let me see. Did I put in a link to that? No, I didn't. I'll have to find the link. I think it's in Slack. But I was thinking that in terms of prominence on the release notes, we should have a section, and I think it should go before all of the technical things, probably after the new features, but a new heading if you cannot log in. And then let's and then have some text here. Does that seem like the right level of prominence? Go ahead, Ralph. Get a
Why
thumbs up
not
from Aaron.
instead of going with the worst case of if you cannot log in, instead of add basically an instruction for the administrator for the required steps for updating to make sure that that person is definitely logged in and doesn't log out, like in your example in the beginning, where you've illustrated one of the problematic cases, and that way at least one person is definitely logged in and transferred the hash to the new.
So yes, it's good advice to make sure you're logged in before you update the code.
Well, that's a bit difficult to say that to make sure you're logged in, because, well, in many cases that use like a different CI/CD command line commands, then that shouldn't be necessary. So it's kind of a, I think it could be slightly misleading to say that you need to be logged in. It's like one of the scenarios where you need to be logged in. So, but there are other ways as well.
And I wonder if we could even add some text to this section. And you're right, of course. We should not say that you always need to have an administrator logged in, but at least I think we can suggest it, perhaps even in this paragraph here, under important update information, with a link to the section we're adding further down in the release notes. I think I should be able to find, just give me a minute. Yeah, here it is. And then so here's a module. I guess was just added recently. Maintainers, or is this a sandbox? Usage, trust, releases. Yeah, this was just released 2 days ago. And And this adds something to the status page. Is that a screenshot? Total number of stored password hashes, 52. Number of active users with password hashes generated prior to Drupal 10.1.0, 51. So someone has already done the work. That's exactly the sort of message we need on the status page. I think we should consider taking this contrib module and putting it into core as part of the password compatibility module. And that will handle the status message for us, and then we can see about integrating it on this confirm form. It might be hard to add anything to the confirmation page. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I think the best way to do it, and probably the easiest way to integrate it, would be with a status message. You know, literally like a warning that pops up, or an info. Just to draw your attention, probably a warning, like it would appear if there is any of those users. Just thinking like that's probably easier than trying to modify the actual, you know, the output of this page. Just to add a status warning or something.
Okay, good point. Add a warning message to this page. Yeah, I think that would be a good way to do it. So when we get to the confirm uninstall page, if password compatibility is on the list, then add a warning. Fun. Okay. I think that's a good discussion of this issue. Anything you want to say before moving on? And we're a little more than half an hour into the meeting. What shall we talk about next? Oh, I'm afraid we've got a rather long list of issues that we've been meaning to look at.
I'm not very helpful right now because I'm away from my desk, but the third one from the bottom could be quite good in the sense of it probably just needs you know, sign off to say, yes, this is a good idea to do. I imagine. I haven't looked at it in much detail, but that one was raised recently.
Okay, so this is issue 2921133. Remove please from the code base. And it's currently RTBC. And Ralph posted a link to the issue in the Zoom chat. Thank you. The remaining task is just to confirm the change for comment number 24.13. '24 was a long review. Set password feels a bit too direct. And what? '38 changes the message to, it is recommended that you set your password, rather than please set your password. Let's see, I commented last month. And that was on this question about what to use instead of please wait. So I guess, although it wasn't listed in the remaining tasks, that was one of the last questions to be resolved, what to use instead of please wait. And going back to number 38, Quiet One mentioned that discussion in Slack. So I think the current patch does use processing, which is one of the suggestions that came up, and personally, I approve of that one. I don't love it is recommended that you set your password. It is recommended that is sort of awkward. The original is please set your password, just removing the word please makes it set your password, which seems a little abrupt. Is that good enough? Should we recommend something different? You may want to set your password. Consider setting your password. And I guess, am I currently logged in? Probably. If I log out again, go back to MailHog. That one, the new one. See it in context. So it is this message here that we're talking about. Please set your password is what it currently is. If we remove please, do we make it set your password? It is recommended that you set your password. Does anyone care? Ralph, go ahead.
Could you switch back to the issue with the suggested, the two suggested versions? Please set your password, or set the one that is rejected is set your password. I think it was
Right. So
yeah, I agree that set your password is a bit too direct, but and it was also brought up in the issue that in a few cases people just use the one-time login each time they want to log in, so they never change the password actually. So not sure if it's a recommended practice, but nevertheless, I agree with you may update your password now, something like that might be less pressing. On the other hand, I'm not sure in regards of processing. For me, processing,
let's think about one at a time.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
And yeah, I was also thinking along the same lines as what you just said. You can reset your password because it's a special thing about this form. This is the one time you can set a new password without knowing the old password. Aaron, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm having deja vu because didn't we just look at an issue that changed this text, or because I don't know if it was different to, yeah, I'm sure it was a different issue to the one we were just looking at, but I made a follow-up comment on that issue, and I forget the issue number. But basically saying that, like, yes, people do use one-time login links, and I do that to log into a site, and yeah, you don't need to set a password. But that's not those people are like ourselves, are people who don't need this message. The people who really need this message are the people who reset the password, just got an email, clicked the link, and so this message is really for those people who, with absence of a dedicated form for setting your password. Like, I don't like that we send people to this user account form in the first place. But did you just find that issue? Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah, that's the one right above.
Yeah, so this message needs to convey a sense of urgency for and I think, yeah, we definitely made a recommendation for this text, which was oh no, maybe the one, wait, is that the one that we just looked at, Ralph? I think that's a different one. But anyway, the point is, because that's the text that goes into, I think that's a different, that's when you just sent the email, I think.
Sorry.
Anyway, my point is that, like, we want to convey a sense of urgency with this message, because as you just said, Benji, like, this is the only opportunity you have to actually reset the password without knowing the existing one.
Right, and Yoroi suggests, I was deliberately verbose here in my current one. You can now set your password with the form below.
I guess below works out fine for these messages. We can't always be sure where to point to, right? With messages, yeah, below is probably right. What with mobile layouts and whatever, but yeah. So in this case, it's probably okay. Are we can't be sure if this is a new password, right? So you can set. Or is it always a new password? I mean, set your new password, or you can now set your new password.
It's almost always a new password if you if it's not the situation we discussed in the first half of the meeting, then
Yeah.
presumably the reason you reset the password is that the old one doesn't work or you can't remember it. So I think it's close enough to always that I would not mind saying a new password.
I think I found the issue where we previously made a recommendation. It was back in March. And the recommendation was, you have logged in with your one-time login link. Set your new password now. It is not possible to use this link a second time. If you scroll down to comment 37 is the review comment.
Excellent. To control, what should we do to control scope? Should we sort of roll this one into the remove please issue? Or shall we just point out that there's already this issue in progress and let that take care of it? In fact, this is already RTBC.
Yeah, I would just let this one get committed and then ignore it in the other one.
Yeah. Agreed. Link the 406 one to this one.
Okay, so for the sake of the recording, let's this is 296-9406. It is already RTBC. It will already remove the word please. It already removes the word please. So shall we just postpone this on the other one, or not change that one instance so that they can be committed in either order?
Well, if it would so please the core committers, I would suggest try to work. I was just trying to wait to work that in there. I would suggest we just don't in the overall removing please issue. I would say we just ignore the instance that already has an issue. That might be the easier way to do it, because at the end of the day, both issues will end up removing everything. So if, as Roya suggested, if we just like link them together, I think that might be enough.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not create more admin, right? Or rerolls or whatever.
Okay, yes, we'll just link them as related issues. Obviously, whichever one gets committed first, the other one will have to be updated. That'll be a pretty easy change to make. And we will let the committers decide which order to do them in.
That would please me greatly.
Um,
God,
all right.
come on, no laugh.
Please stop.
You already made that joke, Aaron. I thought it was fine. But
Fine,
I'm not
okay.
going to laugh the second time.
All right.
Is this actually the text that we settled on? Because this is a run-on sentence. Set your password now, comma, it is not possible to use this link a second time.
Yeah, that was the agreed one at the
All
time.
right.
I did start thinking about it a bit in that it's two messages in a single sentence.
Yeah, I think like in an ideal world, like I said, we'd have a dedicated form, and I think once we get around to maybe we could maybe that's something that collectively we could prioritize, because like with blocks, the user interface, that's not confusing, does need a general kind of like update, and the user edit form is kind of overwhelming in some cases, and so I do think of this as a kind of temporary plaster on a bigger issue.
Yeah, and I was thinking, maybe once 10.1 is released and we've done all of this work on the navigation for blocks, maybe we should tackle the user form next and hope to get that in by 10.2.
Yeah,
But there is also the appearance page, which is directly related to the block layout. So
yeah, that's true.
We don't have to decide right now, but yeah, those are two definite candidates for our next area of focus. Roy, did you want to say something else?
I was wondering, for people with more experience or exposure to the larger remove all the pleases issue, did that involve other rewrites like this, where we really had to rephrase stuff, or is it mostly removals without updating grammar or updating sentence structure, etc.? Because then if this is like a bit of an outlier in that we need to think about what to exactly put here, then we could still leave it out and keep that larger one ready for commit. And again, point to the specific one and say we're hashing it out here.
Yeah, I think most of the changes are just removing the word please. Please run becomes run. Please visit becomes visit. So most of the changes are very small. It's not a huge number of changes. I'll just, well, I guess JavaScript sometimes has very long lines. It's a lot of changes, but not an overwhelming amount of changes. And most of them are very small. Just removing the word please. Here's another one where it's just removing the word please. And there are just, I think the only ones that required special attention were the processing one, what to use instead of please wait, and this one with the login link.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube about the directness of the Dutch, as I am. But do we, or we could also say, okay, maybe the directness is okay, right? Set your new password. Do we really want to massage it a bit more, or is the directness okay? It's another way, another option to think about this, right?
I don't care all that much. And
yeah, should we care so much, right?
since the decision has already been made on this other issue,
Yeah.
Let's just go with that. And
yeah,
again, both issues are already RTBC.
exactly.
One of them will have to be updated when the other is committed. And I think that's fine.
Yeah, and we do tend to aim for, usually news reviews, we tend to always aim for shorter, more direct sentences, easier things that are easier to parse. So seems
Easier to translate as well, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're nearly at the end of the hour. So to wrap up, I think I will create an issue for what we talked about in the first half. The problems with the new password compatibility module. And Aaron, would you like to comment on one or both of these issues to just to link them?
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that, and I will. Yeah, should be able to do that either today or sometime this weekend.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I guess I will over this weekend try to finally get caught up on posting recordings and editing out the parts before the meeting actually gets started. And go ahead.
Yeah, that would be good because I'm aware I still have another issue to comment on, which I was waiting on the recording. So if you could please do that, that'd be great.
Okay.
I snuck another please in there.
I'll laugh this time. Great. Well, thank you all for coming, and I'll be back again next week. Hope you can make it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
You too.